I have to start by asking you about the Planet Serpo book, because it's actually, I think, led to this most recent book, and it's one of those stories that many people have probably never heard of. But essentially, there was a 13-year journey, as I understand it, by a dozen U.S. military astronauts to Planet Serpo, and this was back in the 1960s. So why don't you tell us what you believe happened?
Well, the whole story was really told by Steven Spielberg in Close Encounters. Really, that final scene showed the Americans departing for the alien planet. But what happened was, it was an agreement between the DIA. The DIA was in charge of this operation, between the aliens and the DIA, that we would send 10 people to their planet, and they would leave 1 here. It was the exchange program, is what it was. And by the time it actually happened, Kennedy was dead, so they had to go to Johnson and get approval to continue with it. And he said, they're not going to show up anyway, go ahead with it. He didn't think it would happen, but it did. And they landed here at Holloman Air Force Base at first, and then in the Nevada test site. That's where they took our 10 people on board. And
so, Planet Serpo is in the Zeta Reticuli star system.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Are these grays that we're talking about, or
no,
what kind of aliens?
No, they're not grays. These are very. I would say, I would call them good, kindly disposed, helpful beings, and very open and very generous and very sharing. We were lucky. They were the ones that crashed at Roswell. That's how this all began. There was one survivor. And because there was one survivor, that opened it up to the exchange program.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is based on interviews you've had with people around the project, or documentation?
Documentation mostly by the DIA, put out there on the Serpo website, which is now huge, and interview with Bill Ryan. And Bill was the one who created the website and had the most information from Anonymous. Anonymous was the one, Anonymous was an ex-DIA officer who revealed the information to the website, and Bill just put it all together. But I did talk to Bill for about 2 hours.
And so you have no idea who the astronauts were? There's no way to actually find these people and try to interview them?
No, they're all dead now. They're all dead now. The last one died in, I believe, 2012 in Florida.
But you know personally who some of these people are?
No. The Air Force has been very rigorous in keeping that a secret. We don't know who they were.
And do we know what they discovered in their journey?
Oh yeah, it was all in a 3,000-page debriefing document that they gave to the DIA and the Air Force Office of Special Intelligence when they returned. They were there for 13 years, not 10 years. Mm-hmm. They wanted to say for 10, but they lost track of time because of the situation they were in. The aliens had, Serpo had 2 suns in the sky, and it was very difficult to keep track of passage of time. So they stayed 3 years more than they were supposed to.
And what were they doing while they were there?
They were given a free hand by the aliens. They were investigating, taking notes. That was their job. Their job was to learn as much as they could, especially about technology. Mm-hmm. Technology was really the reason for it, because we needed that technology in the 60s, because we knew that there was a German-based group in Antarctica that were not necessarily our friends, and by getting information from the Serpo people, we hoped to balance that equation.
Now, these are the Nazis that had escaped and utilized some form of alien technology?
Yes.
In Antarctica?
In Antarctica.
And so currently...
That's why Admiral Byrd was sent there under Operation High Jump to destroy the base, but he didn't succeed.
Mm-hmm. But you're saying ultimately, based on the technology that we got from the people from Serpo, that we were able to acquire that base or subdue it, or what is the current status?
No, we weren't able to do anything about it. That's why Antarctica's remained an international continent. No, we haven't destroyed it.
Do you know what kind of technology was utilized for this fast. It must have been about the speed of light traveling to that distant star system in this period of time.
According to Anonymous and according to the website, they used travel through a wormhole.
And anything else about the world that they could explain or describe?
It was a barren planet, and it wasn't a very pleasant place to live. I don't think any of us would ever want to live there. It was a police state. They were controlled completely from a central location, but they were very kind and sharing people. And they opened up anything we wanted. They gave us the information. So our people came back with a tremendous amount of information, which went into that 3,000-page debriefing document, and now remains locked up in a vault at Bowling Air Force Base. The last time I heard about it was Bowling.
Right. And so based on your research into this project, how did that lead to your new book about the alien world order?
It was really not connected, except it proved to me that we've been dealing with aliens for quite a long time, since the 60s. And once I became convinced of that, I realized that it was a much larger subject that needed to be explored. But I came to the conclusion that the what we call the 𝗎𝗓𝗓s were not grays, and they were not connected with the reptilians.
The 𝗎𝗓𝗓s being the ones from Serpo?
Yeah, we gave them that name. That's based on extraterrestrial biological entities. That's how we pin that on them, and so they become the 𝗎𝗓𝗓s ever since.
I've heard one description of planet Earth from a presumed insider, that essentially it's a way station, basically for many aliens to come through and either, I'm not sure about refueling, but essentially to stop and take a look around. Perhaps they have underground facilities here, but the point being that it's more of a way station for a lot of aliens crossing rather than just the main ones that we talked about.
That makes sense. That really does make sense. I hadn't heard that, but it fits in perfectly with what I know about it.
So now let's talk about the new book, The Alien World Order, because it's very much galactic history. And with galactic history, obviously, none of us have been around long enough to know what did happen in the distant past, and there are very few records. There's a few ancient texts like the Sumerians and oral traditions, obviously, of the different peoples of the planet. So what are the main sources that you used for this book?
The main source was written by somebody named Robert 𝗪𝗓𝗧, who recorded this because the information came from his grandfather, who was also a Native American. It all started with a crash on the Native American reservation, and his grandfather was one of 6 people, 6 young men who took care of the surviving alien and nursed him back to health. They called him 𝗪𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗧, and over a period of years following that, he revealed this history of our planet and the galaxy to them. And 𝗪𝗓𝗧 recorded it all and wanted to get a degree, a master's degree in this subject, but they all laughed at him.
Right, right, well, it's difficult to convey these concepts, but let's start with essentially, because his history is vast and we don't have time to get into the entire scope of it, but the idea is that the reptilians were the first species to colonize Earth, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And that's
what he said.
Would that then would that correlate to the dinosaurs?
According to Robert 𝗪𝗓𝗧, they brought the dinosaurs with them to this solar system.
As pets?
As a food source.
A food source.
They relied on the dinosaurs as a food source. If you can imagine a species that relies on dinosaur meat, that's what they did, according to 𝗪𝗓𝗧.
And so these reptilians that came to colonize Earth, they still see Earth. They still exist. They see Earth as their planet. No?
Yes. As the original inhabitants, yes. They think it's their planet.
But now, in the course of time, have they adapted to a new form? Are they reptilians that have basically over time transformed into humans, or do you believe reptilians are still a species that exists, for example, underground?
Yes, they're underground. What happened was there was a federation of human planets, human star systems, that decided to confront them on this planet because of what they had done in the star system Lyra, which they had destroyed 3 planets and slaughtered 50 million humans. That was the first encounter between reptilians and humans, which was many millions of years ago. As a result of that, the humans had to scatter throughout the galaxy. And some of them came here. And they settled on 2 planets. They settled on 𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗦𝗧𝗘, which was the 4th planet in line, and on Mars. According to Morning Sky, the Earth at that time was a water planet. It was uninhabited. So humans lived in this solar system for quite a long time, unbothered by anybody else.
Oh, the humans were here before the reptilians came?
The humans came to 𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗦𝗧𝗘 and Mars, and not to Earth, before the reptilians got here. That's right. Of course, the reptilians roamed the galaxy. They had spacefaring technology for, according to Morning Sky, they've had it for thousands and thousands of years, perhaps millions of years. And they finally got here to our system and saw that there were 2 human civilizations living here, and they decided to get rid of them.
So ultimately in this war, what was the resolution? Obviously humans are still here, so...
The resolution was that their plan was to take over the water planet that we call Earth and make it into an inhabitable planet for themselves in this solar system. What they did was they destroyed 𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗦𝗧𝗘. How they destroyed it is questionable. They had the weaponry to do it. They had a so-called Death Star weaponry, which they used to destroy planets in Lyra. So some people think their Death Star came too close to 𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗦𝗧𝗘 and thereby made it explode. Others think they had a weapon that destroyed it. In any case, it turned into an asteroid belt, which we now know. Then as they went by Mars, they stripped Mars of much of its atmosphere. So the Martians, who were then humans also, had to go underground on Mars. And then they came to Earth, and they dried it out, made it susceptible to their inhabitation. Two continents emerged from the water. One we called Lemuria, the other Atlantis. And according to Morning Sky, they created the moon, which is an artificial planet, and started to inhabit the Earth. Having done what they chose to do to 𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗦𝗧𝗘 and Mars, they now felt unconstrained to worry about humans in this solar system. However, they were hasty in making that decision because the Federation was not pleased with this. And however, according to Morning Sky, the reptilians lived here undisturbed for about 200,000 or 300,000 years on this planet. And at that point, the Federation decided to send a race of humans here, which at that time was living in the Pleiades, who were originally from Lyra. So they had been through the Lyra desecration. Mm-hmm. They were a fierce human race and very advanced. The rest of the Federation didn't like these guys because they were troublesome. So the Federation says, we're going to send them to Earth to confront the reptilians. And that's what they did.
If you like this video and you want to see more amazing content, go ahead and check out the next video on our channel.